I'm sitting in this fellow's office. He's got a 5-picture deal with one of the studios, or maybe a bunch of guys who want to make some movies. I don't know, but they're all gonna be all low budget stuff. And anyway, the guy's read one of my scripts. My agent has sent me over. Says, you got to go see this guy. I say, okay. So he starts off the meeting by saying, I read your stuff. It's very funny. I laughed. Now, and that's how the meeting starts. So he didn't exactly impress me as a guy of great humor, but the guy's got a 5-picture deal. Okay, and he's looking for writer-directors, known as a hyphenate. And so he's trying to get me. He says, look, bring me one of your scripts. We'll make it. I've got the money for it. You direct it. So I'm not a director. I don't know anything about it. He said, you don't have to know anything about it. Just give us about 10 good minutes, 5 good minutes. So after we lose everybody's money, they can sit around on cold nights in front of their fireplaces and TVs and the glow, and they can run this over and over, and they say, oh, God, if they got to only give us another, 95 minutes of this, So, it was not at a time when I was still doing a lot of writing. I was involved back with my newspapers back in Oklahoma. And, I didn't want to direct anything or anything like that. So, we had a cordial meeting, and in those days, what you would do after you have a meeting is you'd go down the street, you find a phone booth. Tell you how long ago that was. And you call your agent, and by that time, whoever you'd had the meeting with had called your agent and said, God, this guy's a lunatic, or, oh, I love him. That's WUV. I love this guy, But this meeting, okay, with this guy, I'm going, we just didn't click at all. So anyway, I call her, and she said, oh, man. I said, what did you do? And I said, man, it's just starting out the way I thought it was. I said, well, I went in and I was my usual charming self. And she said, he loved you. He really wants to do business with you. Whatever you want, he really, are you serious? I read your stuff. I laughed. Well, anyway, this is kind of how projects get started. Projects in those days, at least, probably still, in one of 3 ways. You'd write a spec script, which is what I did, and people would like the script, and it was called your calling card, and your agent would send it around somewhere, and then somebody would say, well, I want to meet that guy, and then maybe I want to hire that guy to rewrite something we're already doing, or so forth and so on. That's one way. The second way is that they come to you, and your agent sends you over, and they try and get you. They've already got something, and they either want it rewritten or they want or they want it written. They bought this idea, and this happened at Disney. I'm over at Disney one day, and with these couple of Disney producers, people who had a deal with Disney, had an idea that Disney had paid $250,000 for, and it basically was a guy goes into an airport, he needs to take a leak, he goes into the men's room and vanishes, and we're supposed to fill in the rest. So anyway, we had done that meeting there, and my agent was kind of hot. He said, I think you can get this deal. I said, what the hell, man? Another way, and this happened several times, was a producer wants to work with you, and they know you, and so then they your agent sends you over to see them, and you cart along 3 ideas. This one, this one, and this one. And you throw up this one, and they say, and you throw up something else, and you throw up the third one. Well, sometimes, okay, because your agent in those days, and probably still, if the agent says he'll do it, you got to do it, okay? It's contractually. She's the one who makes the contract, or he, for you. And then you may or may not want to do business with this person. That was the case with one time for me, and several times for others, where they wind up in a meeting with somebody that they really do not want to do business with, and spend 2 years of their life with, and so you cart in some sort of awful idea. And one of my friends took an idea in called Death Valley High School, which was a really offensive script and ahead of its time, because it was some kid who went into this high school and shot it up. And of course, later on, horrible. This became not a norm, but it was not. It happened. But in those days, this was really offensive, and it got kicked around. That was a Disney movie, by the way. That movie eventually got made, but it didn't wind up in Death Valley. I think it wound up in the Sahara. It didn't wind up with shooting up a school. I think it wound up with some people on camels. I don't know, But anyway, it worked its way through, and somebody found it and rewrote it, and somebody else rewrote it, and that's how that worked. And so I was approached a couple of times, and I'll tell you the story about when Dick Wolf, who had the Law and Order, started Law and Order, he's brilliant producer, writer, was so successful with Law and Order that I think his deal was at Universal, I think, gave him money to set up a movie division, and those guys, the guy who's running that division, is a great guy, really nice guy, came to me, and we did a series of lunches, and he wanted me to develop initially a script based on that somehow it was touching Vietnam, and we went down that road for a while. And one day, we were having lunch over in Studio City, and this guy was Jewish. Who isn't? I wasn't, but I'm the only one in Hollywood. Linda Palmer, my mentor. Everybody else is pretty much British, Jewish, and by the way, very smart and very nice, and mostly very, very ethical. I mean, you can, you're okay. But anyway, this guy's from the Upper East Side of New York City, and didn't really matter if he was Jewish or not. And I said to him at this point, because we're kind of getting deep into this Vietnam thing, we're kind of the same age. Would you have what happened here? He said, well, I had a high draft number, and the way this worked was the draft was still going on during the Vietnam War, and they they drew birth dates, and if your birth date was number 1, you got drafted, and if it was number 365, you'd never get drafted. And he said, I just had a higher number, and I didn't get drafted. I said, well, but if you had, would you have gone? He said, no, I would have gone to Canada. And we looked at one another. And of course, I spent almost 2 years in Vietnam. I almost died in Vietnam. And we sort of stared at one another. These are 2 guys. I liked him, he liked me, and there was this sort of long pause, and he said, you can't do this, can you? We're not going to be able to work together on this script, are we? And I said, I don't think we can. And so he said, in great Hollywood fashion, let's find something else. And so we did, and he wanted something different from that point, and so we did. I brought him really an innovative, I think, was kind of on it was two stories that were interlaced, back and forth. Story one was one scene, and the next scene it was different, and you go back and forth. And that's straight out of, I think it's out of Steinbeck's Gripe of Wrath. If you look at, I think it's Gripe of Wrath. Anyway, Steinbeck basically told two stories, but each chapter would return to that, and they really liked that, and they really shopped that around, and for a while, and but no, nobody could kind of figure out how they could make it, and they couldn't figure out how to sell it, and they couldn't figure out how to do, anything on it. So we'll talk some more about how movie ideas come along. We'll probably tell the story of plurality, which is a political, and certainly tell the story of I wrote plurality, which almost got made. I'm pretty much the one who pulled the plug on making that movie, and so we'll go on and we'll tell that story at another time.